awesome crowd because we've got an awesome panel. Just want to remind you, it's the second Monday of the month, so that means it's Frank Talks. So you can always remember, second Monday of the month. Look it up, see what we've got going on. But again, thank you all. I'm going to turn it over to Mindy.
Great, thank you so much, Tim. Tim Murphy, our board president. I'm Mindy Tate, executive director for Franklin Tomorrow. We really appreciate your being here. As Tim said, Frank Talks is a new monthly program we started this year. It's always on the second Monday at a different location across the city. Usually we start at 9 a.m. with a coffee social, and so we hope you'll come and meet someone new and begin a conversation in the community about what our topic is that day or about something else. So we are glad you are here for Frank Talks. We've got a great panel which doesn't really, for most of them, don't need any introduction. They are very well known to you all, which is why you're here hopefully today to hear about the three things to know for 2017. So our panel includes, and we're going to go in this order in a few minutes. I want to first ask you, if you haven't already, please put your cell phone on vibrate or silent. If you've got some friends who can't be here this morning but wish they could be, City of Franklin is on Facebook Live on the city page broadcasting this morning, and Tom Lawrence is recording it for use on the radio from WKM later on, so there'll be plenty of great coverage of this today. But please silence your cell phones. But we're going to go in this order of the panel of the three things to know for 2017. I know that we all have some things we'd love to understand and know, so we'll figure those out as we go along. But our panel is going to be Andy Marshall with Andy Marshall Foods, also known as Puckett's Grocery, but he'll talk a little bit about that. Franklin Mayor Ken Moore. Hi, Ken. Back from Guatemala. When did you get back from Guatemala?
Yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday afternoon. And Matt Largen with Williamson Inc. and David Logan with the Williamson County Association of Realtors. We're going to have time for questions. We're going to try to wrap up by 10:30. That clock is an hour ahead, guys, up there, but that's just
I know, right? It's tough for politicians.
We will try to get done by about 10:30 or so, allow time for questions, but hopefully these gentlemen, if you have a question, you can ask it to them later or on through email or Facebook opportunity. But I'm going to turn it over. And Andy Marshall, what are three things we need to know for 2017?
Thank you, Mindy, and thank y'all for being here. Never know on a Monday morning, after a long weekend, what happens on a Monday morning. I'm glad it wasn't at 7, I can tell you that.
Well, if you dim those lights,
I am Andy Marshall with A. Marshall Family Foods, as Mindy said. We own Puckett's Restaurant, Puckett's Boathouse, Scouts Pub, Homestead Manor, and a food trolley called Dolly Pardon, or Dolly Trolley, as we like to call her. And we've got event venues also in Williamson County. Soon to announce a brand new venue that I'll hit on in just a second. But anyway, I wanted to kind of share with you, and from what I know, and you guys know probably more than I do in this room, but is that good, Mindy?
Back row said they were having a little trouble hearing, and that's amazing.
Thank you. I get really quiet when the lights go down. But I wanted to hit on three things. One was our hotels. There's a lot coming in the world of hotels. Some of you may or may not know that the Middle Tennessee area is way under-roomed. If you wanted to spend a weekend with your spouse in Nashville right now, the likelihood of you even being able to book a room is almost nil. They're pre-booked out, they're way out. It's forcing people outside of Nashville into Franklin, and we're under-roomed in Franklin. So we got a lot happening this year coming up. Franklin Square, which has been well publicized, they will break ground in January. They will start with their apartments and then head right into their hotel after that. 115 rooms there. South Creek at South Lawn Carter's Creek, there'll be an 80-room facility there. Will also be an event venue on that property. Summit Development, 2 hotels are planned there. They haven't announced their brands yet, but likely both of those hotels will be 120 to 150 rooms. Hampton Inn and Berry Farms, which has been announced, and I'm sure they're ready to break ground. They want to move quickly on that one. Dwell has announced that they want to put a hotel in, 150 room, in the Dwell complex. Ovation wants to put 2 hotels in theirs, and both of those will likely be 120 to 150, which is kind of the magical number for hotels. And Hilton's on Carruthers Parkway, 250 rooms. So if you add that up, we've got somewhere around 1,200 to 1,400 hotel rooms coming to Middle Tennessee, the Franklin area, which is a good sign for us, I think. Particularly when you look at tourism and how we've expanded our tourism footprint from Nashville. We're no longer just a day trip for Nashville. We're now, people are seeking overnight stays here for many reasons. One of those I'd like to think is restaurants, and restaurants are growing in this area. You know, we know that there's 2 restaurants announced for the First Tennessee Bank building. One on the rooftop, which will be a fabulous addition to Franklin, and one on the bottom floor. Biscuit Love, a food truck, which is grown now from food truck to getting into brick and mortar. They're going into Lily Bells, which I think is a perfect spot for them. And then the Methodist Church, you see the construction going on there. I know that they're seeking a restaurateur for the Fifth Avenue side of that, and then the Harpeth Square on the corner there at First and First Street. They're wanting to put a restaurant right there on that corner, which I think would be a perfect spot for Scouts too. Just saying. But the independent presence, the food presence, is becoming a marketable tourist thing for Nashville certainly, and for Franklin too. The independent restaurants have grown in awareness. We've gotten better. We've attracted better talent, better chefs. We've got some chef-owned and operated restaurants that are moving to the area. So the restaurants continue to be a strong pull for tourism. And then lastly, I think when we talk about things I've seen over the last 10 years that are rapidly moving in the last couple is the music for our community. When you think about where we were 10 years ago with music, it was almost non-existent. But now, with some new additions, with the festival that we just recently had, having its 2nd year, 3rd year, promises to be even bigger and better. With Justin signing on as part of that group, and then there's an announcement of a new venue in the factory. It's going to be a songwriter type venue. And it'll be very intimate, happening on Thursday nights, and that scene continues to grow. So we have multiple, along with Puckett's and Boathouse and many others that are offering music in Franklin. So I think that continues to grow as a big interest, and I think you'll see a nice little push in music awareness as Americana Music Association continues to find a foothold and a home here in Franklin. Mayor?
Well, I counted, Andy. That's 38.
38. I did.
Which gives me great relief because one of my fears was I couldn't pick 3. It was really difficult. We are in a real growth mode in Franklin, 14th fastest growing city in America. And how does the city respond to that? Well, we've been in a planning mode for a pretty good while. I do want to mention, I see Alderman Berger and Alderman Peterson here this morning, board members, and appreciate their being here and also appreciate their service to the city. You know, this year has been a great year. We've continued to have a lot of accomplishments and recognized for the quality of life, and a lot of important announcements of important things occurring. It's kind of an interesting time, though, because we've had a national election, and it's going to be kind of curious how some of the things may trickle down from the national election to our state legislature and even maybe to the city. But I wanted to, first of all, the first thing I picked was Invest Franklin. This past June, we approved a new budget, and in that new budget, there was a tax increase with 7 cents being dedicated to projects, capital projects for the city. Of that 7 cents, 1 cent is dedicated to multimodal, which could mean sidewalks or public transportation and so on. The board has already approved the concept of going forward as far as the phase 1 projects. They haven't voted how they're going to fund them. That's yet to be seen. But based on what we envision, we could do up to somewhere around $100 million worth of projects over the next 10 years, depending on how the board decides to fund those. Some of them would be funded with cash reserves, and some would be funded with through bonds. Of that phase 1 projects that we're looking at, probably the most important one in most of our minds is McEwen Phase 4, which is McEwen Drive from Cool Springs Boulevard over to Wilson Pike. It's a terribly curvy road, very narrow, and we've done some things to make it better until we could get to the point where we could fund it. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to start that project. Another road project that we'll be looking at will be the intersection of Mallory Lane, Royal Oaks, and Liberty. There's some significant development going on in that area that's going to put significant pressure on the transportation system in that area. So we think it's important to redo that intersection to be able to handle the volume of traffic there. We're looking at Franklin Road. One of the criticisms we've been hearing for a long time is inability to walk from downtown out to the factory to Harlansdale. We've studied the sidewalk in that area, but know that it's important that we address all the infrastructure in that area in addition to the roads. We're looking at, with all the growth in southeast Franklin, we've identified some land that we own, and we anticipate we're going to build a new park in southeast Franklin, which will primarily be ball fields, which we're very short on. Then we're looking at building the permanent fire station in southeast Franklin. I think that's fire station 7. Thank you. I get the, we built 8, so now we're going to build 7. It never made a lot of sense to me, but that's exciting.
It's a lucky number.
It's a lucky number. I like that. Thank you.
Sure.
And then also we're going to be addressing sidewalk gaps. We've already started. You may have seen some of the projects, Turning Wheel Lane out toward McKay's Mill and the college. Royal Oaks Boulevard, there's a sidewalk gap, and so there's several other sidewalk gaps that we've identified that we're going to be connecting Franklin so it's much more walkable. And we've set aside a significant amount of money there. Also, we're addressing our roads. Maintenance of roads is a big issue. And back during the recession, we got behind a bit as far as our repaving timeline. We had been putting extra money in for a number of years. In the recession, we had to cut back, and so we're going to try to be playing catch up on repaving the roads that we have. So that was one. I want to add one other caveat.
You can talk as long as you want. It's there.
I'm just trying to follow Angie's 38. The other thing I think is really important that's going to happen, the buzzword is transportation. And we're certainly working very hard to address that on a local level and studying Cool Springs and how we're going to solve that local circulation issue. But importantly, during the next General Assembly, I'm informed that sometime after November the 17th, the governor will be bringing forward his package for transportation, sustainable transportation funding long range. There's some hints what it may be, but I think the important thing is there is going to be something that's going to come forward with the governor, and speaking from myself and also the 40 mayors in the region, we felt very strongly it's important that we support the governor's initiative. We're almost to a maintenance phase as far as our state roads. We also have certain roads that the state helps us fund, and one in particular in my mind is Mac Hatcher. I think that if we can pass a sustainable funding bill on the state level, that we'll get Mac Hatcher finally done, and also some other important projects. And then lastly, my number 3 was Envision Franklin. This is our land use plan. It's actually part of a comprehensive transportation plan. We've linked land use to transportation. The board will be considering a final passage of that at some time in the near future. But it outlines how we're going to grow as a community, where the density will be, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to stop there and give it to Matt Largent.
Okay.
Give us some good news.
All right. Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that. I actually am going to do mine a little different. I'm not going to be quite as specific. I don't have 39 points to mine, but we can talk in more detail in the question and answer period. We actually have our annual celebration this Thursday night, so I'm just going to preview some of the conversation we're going to have at that for this presentation. And really, it's not a celebration of our organization as much as it is a celebration of the economy and the accomplishments of people in this room and companies throughout Williamson County in the last year. Certainly we have an impact, but when it comes to actual job creation, that happens with you all. That happens with the private sector. We set the conditions in the environment, but it's the private sector that go in and actually create those jobs. So something that I'll go ahead and start with is the fact that we have had over the last year the fastest job growth in the country, which is something each and every person should be proud of. Statistics I think sometimes can be pretty meaningless unless you make these personal. And when I think about a statistic like this, what comes to mind is the fact of the term that success breeds success. And for those people in this room, in our community, who want their kids and grandkids to have economic opportunity, move back to Middle Tennessee, move back to Williamson County, this is it. This is the number that's going to drive them here. 7.9%, nearly 4 times the national average in terms of job creation. We've got a really special thing in Williamson County and Middle Tennessee. And I talk a lot about economic opportunity and the fact that you now can have a career in Middle Tennessee without leaving Middle Tennessee. You don't have to go to Atlanta, Charlotte, Chicago, some of those other cities. Because of the way this economy is built and the kind of companies we have headquartered here, you can actually build an entire career and stay in Middle Tennessee. And that's a really great thing, again, for our kids and for our grandkids. So the next thing I want to talk about, with growth certainly comes traffic and congestion. We all know that. We all experienced it when we drove here this morning, which is exactly as the mayor talked about, the governor's plan that will be introduced here in a couple weeks. One of the initiatives that we took on this year was around mobility. And it was designed to be a solutions-oriented conversation, all about the behavior change that you can make and the decisions you can make now that help alleviate traffic and reduce traffic in Williamson County. Whether that's putting school kids on the bus, that's doing carpools, remote working, flex scheduling, all these different things. So what you see in front of you is a result of a lot of the action. So I think a couple things are really important in this slide. Number one, the fact that 306 people came to our transportation summit. That's critical because when the mayor talked about the governor's plan being introduced, it's going to need support, and it's going to need support across Middle Tennessee and frankly across the state. So I think this is the point where the people who attended that summit are engaged in the issue become the evangelist for creating a solution, because it's going to take behavior change and it's going to take money. I mean, that's just a fact of life when it comes to managing our traffic. So I think we basically got a step ahead in helping to find a long-term funding solution for traffic in Williamson County and transportation, and also started to introduce some concepts around behavior change as well. So you combine those two things, and that's where we get to a solution when it comes to transportation and traffic in Williamson County. My next thing, I don't really have a next thing. I won't go 39 because it's just like what the mayor talked about. What does this national election mean at the state level and the local level? And, you know, we don't know right now. I mean, there's a lot of things. I thought this was fascinating. If anybody was watching election night, I mean, just look at the giant swing from the Dow futures about 11:30 to the next day, the Dow being up 218 points, right? There's just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of things that we don't know specifically. And I just made a very short list. What happens with the Affordable Care Act? What happens with taxes, government regulation, immigration, and infrastructure? And I'd love to come to something like this, and I know Tom would love for me to announce the next company that's moving here. But the reality is we don't know what the environment will do. Will it speed up? Will it slow down company decisions? I can tell you that when we worked with the Hardee's headquarter project that will actually come online next year and move here, that was a 4-year project. We worked with Schneider Electric to consolidate their offices in Williamson County. That was a 5-year project, at least that we knew of. They tell me it was more like a 13-year project. So there are a lot of things that we don't know what's going to happen. The hotels are coming online, the restaurants are here, which is great, and some of the office buildings will be under construction or finished construction. We just don't know what's going to happen from this standpoint. Personally, I'm extremely hopeful for what happened Tuesday night. I'm hopeful that this economy moves forward in a very positive, thoughtful, constructive way. And, you know, I think the best thing that we can do, and my pastor mentioned it yesterday, is pray for our leadership. You know, it was very clear. Our pastor went right through what it says in 1 Timothy to pray for our leaders, both the local, state, and federal level. So that's what I'm doing. So that's my theory. Okay.
Can't beat that. Just gonna read you.
There you go. Oh, go back. Okay. There you go.
Well, first of all, thank y'all for being here. I feel like the new kid on the block with all this leadership here, and I'm awestruck to be here with these three. The three things that I want to talk about are one is, did you know that every day in Williamson County, 41 people move here? That's 15,000 people a year. So when we went to Austin, Texas with your group, one of the things Austin said they tried many years ago was, if we don't build it, they won't come. And then they said, don't try it, it didn't work. So,
they got half right.
We feel like that we've got the leadership in our county and our city that is aware of that and trying to stay ahead of the curve and being very progressive. And we're very fortunate to have the leadership in this room and outside this room that we have, because that's something we can count on. They're coming. And it's up to us to figure out how to be smart and get ready for it, because growth is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, but it requires thoughtful management and to not be caught off guard and to be proactive and not reactive. And the two most important things that everybody said they had the same problem. Do I? Not yet.
Okay.
The most important thing that people said the problem is, but we did some research and presented it to the city of Franklin, and they said, y'all live in la la land. Everybody loves everything except two things: traffic and affordable housing. And if you guys could solve that, I mean, everybody in the world would want to move here. And we said, well, we're not sure we want that. But those are the two biggest things that we deal with. It's, everybody's talking about these are problems, and we need to try to figure out ways to solve them. You know, Matt and them are bringing in all these companies that have employees, and they want to work here. But they also want to live here. And many of them can't. Most of them can't. I heard a story, I don't know if it's true, J. Edward, but I heard you were in the hospital for a little stretch back, and you asked people when they came in to wait on you, or not wait on you, but take care for you. And you didn't ask the doctors, but other employees. What did they say? You asked them a question.
I spent 3 days in the Williamson Medical Center with salmonella poisoning, and when I was there, everybody that came in my room, I asked them, do you live in Williamson County? Do you live in Franklin? The answer was always no. They always lived far south of here. There were two people And I hear the debate back and forth, and you can debate all you want to. There were two people that took care of me that drove every day from Huntsville, Alabama, to work at the Williamson Medical Center. Number one, because the care that I got there. I got excellent care at Williamson Medical Center. I mean, I know people, go to Nashville. I would never go anywhere else. I mean, they did excellent care. Yeah, everybody that took care of me, even some of the doctors could not live.
And that's going on everywhere. Andy's got employees that he needs to work in all these restaurants, all these hotels and motels are gonna have to